Yo, what's up, y'all? It's your boy Cool Eagle back here in another video. Just want to come talk to you guys because, whoa, do we have a lot to talk about today in the world of NFL football? It's week 13, 14, depending on what team you are. And around this time of the year, this is when we start. And before I even get into the video, man, thank you guys so much for showing up. The channel's growing slowly but steadily. We're getting, we're making our way to the 300 marks. So again, like, subscribe, get this content out there. And again, always leave your thoughts and love in the comment, whether you're a lover or a supporter. Well, I mean, a lover or a hater, whatever, right? It's sports, so I'm not going to take anything offense. So, looking at this part of the NFL season, we're in week 13, 14. A lot of teams, well, if you're like the Carolina Panthers, you're just trying to like solidify that number one overall pick, top five pick in the draft. But if you're a team like the New England Patriots or the New York Giants, you're just trying to knock someone off and ruin their fortunes going into the playoffs. But if you're a team like the Philadelphia Eagles, the Miami Dolphins, Baltimore, Kansas City alike, you are trying to solidify that number one seed, fight for number one seed, keep your stranglehold in your respective conferences, from likes of teams that are really aggressively trying to earn these spots in Houston, Cleveland, Denver, Minnesota. Hey, you know what I'm saying? It's a very tight race right now, especially in the AFC, where you have a lot of 7-6, 6-6 teams, like the Denver Broncos, the Buffalo Bills, who have a really big game coming up on Sunday versus the Chiefs. Now, this particular video will be just about the playoff picture right now and scenarios that can happen depending on this upcoming Sunday and corresponding Monday Night Football. So let's get into it, right? Looking at this graphic here from CBS Sports. Again, shout out to CBS Sports, one of my favorite networks to get graphics like these. So looking at it, obviously in the NFC, the Philadelphia Eagles having the best record, not only in the conference, but the NFL overall. We would take the number one seed in the NFC conference. Miami Dolphins having the second best record in the NFL. They would take obviously that seed, that first round bye in the AFC. And then we got some really good games actually. Like looking at Houston and Baltimore, I like what I'm seeing. Like this kind of reminds me of Patrick Mahomes' first year in the league. First time going up against Tom Brady. It's that old guard versus the new guard, because right now you have a hot Houston Texans team with the MVP candidate and obvious and definite offensive rookie of the year in CJ Stroud, playing some of his best football right now. The Houston defense is really looking like into the coaching of DeMeco Ryans against Baltimore, who has the MVP and another MVP candidate. They have a really good offense. Now, obviously, they're missing Mark Andrews for the year due to an unfortunate leg injury, but they still have some weapons that'll do too. They got Zay Flowers, an exciting rookie in this league. Odell Beckham, who's looking like he's finding his stride after coming off that injury in the Super Bowl. And then you can't sleep on the run game of the Baltimore Ravens, including MVP candidate Lamar Jackson. You can never count that out. And obviously, as a betting man, you're going for Baltimore just because of the strength of Lamar Jackson and the fact that Houston hasn't been in the playoffs for a while to really give us hope that they can somehow upset an AFC favorite, right? But this game is going to be a really good game if the playoffs were to start today. And obviously, things are going to change after this coming Sunday. Like we might see Buffalo somehow against going to Baltimore. Now, Indianapolis and Kansas City, again, this is the playoff picture right now. Now, Indianapolis, they were an exciting team at the beginning of the league. Anthony Richardson, who's out for the year with a shoulder injury. We really started what he could possibly be in the NFL, but his physical style of play ultimately into his season. But the Indianapolis Colts have been doing very well with Gardner Minshew. The coaching staff is doing a really good job at playing around his strengths and getting the ball out to their number of like good ball carriers like Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman. The list goes on. So they have a very good team that can cause problems for Kansas City, whose offense is still a question. They lead the league in drops. Patrick Mahomes, according to the stat muses of the NFL world, are saying that he's having a not so good year. And obviously, when you're talking about a team that's going into a really big game versus a team that's aggressively trying to earn a playoff spot in the Buffalo Bills, now you're talking about, you know, like their playoff season starts right now just because of the limitations they have on offense. But the defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. They're getting Nick Bolton back this week, so that should really help a lot, especially in that linebacking group. Um, but obviously, if you're a betting man, you're going to go with the Super Bowl MVP and Patrick Mahomes in Indianapolis. I mean, matchup wise, Kansas City would probably like weapons they have, and then they're not defense at all. Now, moving into Cleveland and Jacksonville, this would probably be a favorite leaning towards Jacksonville, just because when you look at the quarterback right now at Cleveland, yes, Joe Flacco does turn it on in the playoffs, having that fantastic run in 2012. But does he still have it in him? Probably not. At his age, it's often more times than not. But Cleveland still has some weapons on the running side of the ball. They get Kareem Hunt, and they got um, that guy. Like I can't think of his name, but they have a really good running game. The offensive line is still there intact, but you gotta worry about the quarterback, Dorian Thompson Robinson. He's a young guy going up against an experienced Jacksonville team. So although this probably would be a good game, Jacksonville is just going to take this one, right? So moving over into so moving back to the NFC. I don't know if I talked about Green Bay, San Francisco, but I did talk about Minnesota and Detroit, how that could be a close game just because that is a division game in the NFC, and we all know how division games typically go. They go down to the wire, but betting man going for Detroit just because they have the better quarterback, that they had a better group of wide receivers. So no, it's the playoffs, but a betting man is obviously going to go for Detroit. Now, Dallas and Atlanta, like we're not really going to talk about that one just because obviously Dallas being a NFC juggernaut right now, they would blow the doors off Atlanta. Like, let's not even play around with that. Dallas is putting 40 on Atlanta, in Dallas, in Venus, on the moon, like you name it. Atlanta is just a bad match. I mean, Dallas is just a huge capital Hugeee for Atlanta. So this is the playoff picture right now. If we were to begin in my thoughts on what really happened. Now let's move into this coming Sunday because this Sunday has a lot of games that are further going to mold the picture for the playoffs. Because y'all know we got big games. Eagles in Dallas. That's really going to decide who's fighting for the number one seed. Even though I said in my last video that if the Eagles happen to lose this game, they would have no choice but to win out. Just based on their strength of schedule versus the 49ers, Detroit, and Dallas. Out of those teams, the Eagles have the easiest stretch after this Dallas game. You know what I'm saying? So, like, let's take a look at the NFL schedule. And again, thank you guys for showing up. Again, like, subscribe, get this content out there. We're making our way to 300 subscribers on this channel. And again, this can't be done without you guys. So thank you so much. All right. So looking at this NFL schedule by ESPN, just let it populate for a second. Going a little slow today. I might have to play this video back, make sure there's no lagging. I don't like to lag on things like that. No, y'all. Okay, so let me zoom in. It's a little small. Okay, zoom in. All right. So obviously, looking at this, the Thursday night football game has already happened. Now, what New England did, although they are still in the lottery for the top 10 pick in the draft, they kind of shook up the AFC with upsetting Pittsburgh like they did at Pittsburgh. You know, so Pittsburgh, they are now 7-6. They are still in the hunt in the tough AFC with the Buffalo Bills who are coming into Kansas City. You still got Denver, who's trying to earn that playoff spot. You have a lot of teams right now trying to earn a playoff spot right now in that tough AFC conference. So looking at this, Tampa Bay and Atlanta, I think that'll be a good game. Just because when you look at Tampa Bay and their record right now, they're 5-7. So they are, I believe, second place in their division. Atlanta is a division game. So if Tampa Bay were to beat Atlanta, which I think they can, they shouldn't. They have a better, they have the better run game. Well, I'm gonna say that Atlanta has a better run game with Rashawn Robinson almost, and I'm saying Chris Algier is in my fantasy. So, Tampa Bay can win this game. It's definitely going to be a low scoring, close contest. But Tampa Bay can win the game if Baker just doesn't turn the ball over and the defense can get back to like that Tampa Bay style of defense. Like getting to the quarterback, getting pressure on the quarterback, which should be easy to do. It's Desmond Ritter, for God's sakes. So if Tampa Bay were to win this game, they would probably move up in that division and probably take that number 7 seed from Atlanta in the NFC. Then it'll be Dallas at Tampa Bay, which wouldn't really mean more of a hill of beans than anything because that number 1 seed, Dallas is going to end up playing that number 1 seed and blowing out whoever comes out of the NFC South. So it really doesn't even matter. And then you got Detroit and Chicago. Detroit, this is going to be a very close game again because it's a division game and they're at Chicago. Chicago, they're pretty much out of contention right now, but I'm sure they would love to spoil the fortunes of Detroit because if Detroit loses that game, I don't believe they'll move down the rankings, but like they definitely uh move down to like at least a 1% chance of winning that number 1 seed. So this is going to be a game to watch, even though it is Chicago. So you know what I'm saying, like you might want to get your little nap in because it's gonna be a little snooze fest. Even though Detroit is an exciting offense, but just in case of a blowout, what I'm saying, like go ahead and get your nap first. Indianapolis and Cincinnati, you have two teams that are still earning their place in the AFC in that tight in the hunt for that number 7 seed. Um, because they're not winning their division, obviously, because of Baltimore. But Indianapolis, they're in the AFC South. And I don't believe they're winning their division just because of Houston and how good Houston is playing. So whoever wins this game, it doesn't really do much for them, although it would put them more in the hunt for that number 7 seed. If you're asking my opinion of who would probably win this game, I would probably have to say Cincinnati just because of how good Jake Browning is, and I would definitely put him over Gardner Minshew. Definitely from how he played against a really good Jacksonville defense last game. Um, so I would take Cincinnati in this one. They have the better wide receivers. They have the better quarterback to me. Offensive line in Indianapolis may have that running game. I don't know because Jonathan Taylor hasn't been really Jonathan Taylor, and ever since Anthony Richardson went out for the year of that shoulder injury, Indianapolis run game is like little and non-existent. So Jacksonville, Cleveland, that's a playoff match up that we seen a while ago. So this could be one of those like precursor games. If Jacksonville beats Cleveland or Cleveland beats Jacksonville, who's to say they won't see each other again? But with how tight the AFC is, this win would definitely mean a lot more to Cleveland to keep that 7 seed. Carolina, New Orleans, it doesn't really matter who wins this game. Honestly, if you're a betting man, you're going to go for New Orleans because Carolina doesn't seem to have urgency to win just because of the draft pick they're going to get from this game. Houston and New York. That I think this is a really good Houston game right here, going to the Jets and getting that win. Because right now you have a lot of turmoil going on with the Jets. Zach Wilson being forced to start when he really doesn't want to play for the Jets organization for a myriad of reasons. So I think Houston can pull this game out, taking them to 8-5 and really having a stranglehold on that AFC, and then they could potentially, get the AFC South just because they do have a tiebreaker with Jacksonville. So very good watchable game here. Los Angeles and Baltimore. Not really seeing what this win could do for Los Angeles. They're not taking the number 7 seed just because, just because who's the 7th seed in the I mean, they just no. I don't see them winning this game. Baltimore has to win this game to keep a stranglehold on the AFC. So I got Baltimore in this one. It's a really bad matchup. Well, it might be because Matt Stafford versus Lamar Jackson. Um, the LA running game versus the Baltimore running game is not a question at all. Angeles does have the advantage at wide receiver with Puka and Cooper. And then Tutu Atwell ain't nothing to sleep on. They still got the really good tight end, something that Baltimore does not have. So this game could be very close, but I got my money on Baltimore, definitely taking the under. Minnesota and Las Vegas, I don't really see what implications this game could have, just because Minnesota. Uh, I mean, but Minnesota, I guess they would have to keep that number 6 seed. Right now, they do have the number 6 seed and going into Detroit. But if Vegas were to win this, maybe they could shake some up in the AFC. Minnesota loses. Maybe they lose their seed. Not really too sure on that. Seattle, San Francisco. This is going to be a really good game. As a matter of fact, after the 12 o'clock slate, not saying the 12 o'clock slate doesn't have good games, but when you look at the comparison from the noon game to the afternoon, this is where the real action begins. You got Seattle going to San Francisco. I'm watching this game because Seattle is fighting for that playoff spot. It is in their best interest to upset San Francisco, and I'm all for it. Because if Seattle beats San Francisco, that lessens the impact just in case something goes awry in that Dallas Eagles game Sunday night, which pretty much decides the NFC. Well, maybe, but has a huge impact though. So Buffalo, Kansas City. Buffalo is fighting aggressively for that playoff spot in the AFC. Kansas City has a lot of questions. Some calling a panic if they were to lose this game. But this is going to be a classic game. Definitely something that a lot of people should pay attention to, just because if Buffalo loses this game, their season is pretty much over. Just because they don't have the tiebreakers over Denver, and Denver, I feel like it beat. This is also a division game. So, and then of course we know what Philadelphia and Dallas, like throughout the myriad of things I've been talking about. If Dallas loses to Philadelphia, they also take out their chances to win the number 1 seed. Philadelphia keeps that game lead on San Francisco. If Seattle were to beat San Francisco, well, actually a game and a half or 2-game lead over San Francisco. If they were to lose to Seattle, but if Philadelphia were to lose to Dallas and San Francisco wins, they would take the number 1 seed and drop Philadelphia down to number 2. So it's a lot riding on Sunday. But I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts in the comments. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go for a run. But again, like, subscribe, tell what you guys think in the comments. Love doing this with y'all. And again, we got more content on the way. Again, like, subscribe on your way out. But until next time, man, we're doing this thing because again, it's tight right now. 14 is where a lot of shit goes down, and we're going to cover every single part of it. Now we got more content later. So again, come back later. I hope you guys have a nice day. Cool Eagle is out of here.